want to hear that. You in the country illegally. Hell with your process.
Yeah.
You got the audacity to admit a crime after you got here illegally? We ain't trying to hear that. Nobody's trying to hear that.
What's up, bro? Welcome back to Cancel Thoughts. It's your boy, Better Days here. Stephen A. Smith is probably the biggest name in sports commentating, guys, especially when it comes to basketball, guys. Like him or not, he is the best in the world at what he does. But very recently, he's been venturing out into other topics and other domains and talking about points of interest like politics and stuff. And some of his takes there are completely nonsensical and hypocritical to me. However, sometimes he does say some things that are very, very poignant, and you can't really refute them, and you got to give credit where credit is due, guys. So I'm going to be showing you guys a quick clip today from a show that he did on Real Time with Maher, where he just drops straight knowledge. But before we get into it, you guys already know I'm about to ask you guys to do me a solid and hit that like and subscribe button for more content. I'm trying to make sure as many people find this channel as possible, and the only way I'm gonna do that is with you guys' help.
Okay, so let's talk about the border one. Okay. Because ICE is now detaining people. This has a lot of people concerned. The Laken Riley Act, I'm sure you voted on that. I think you voted no. Okay, but it did pass with 46 Democrats in the House voted for it. And in the Senate, it passed 64 to 35, so I think about 12 Democrats there. This is a law that says that ICE can detain any illegal who is charged, arrested, or convicted of a crime, not merely an accusation, so don't get excited, Karens. Has to be charged, arrested, or convicted. Now, Ruben Gallego, who we've had on the show a number of times, and I think has bigger ambitions, that he's now the senator from Arizona, he voted for it. He said, I'm bringing the perspective of working-class Latinos from Arizona. That perspective, I think, has been missing. And he talks about people who are largely out of touch with where your average Latino is. It sounds like he's calling out people like you who voted no.
I like Ruben. There are a lot of Latino. I do. I think you've had a hell of a race. But there are a lot of Latino leaders who also voted no. Here's the basic thing in this country. If you're convicted of a sex offense, of a violent offense, absolutely you should be deported. But if you're just arrested, we are a country which we have due process, and you should have a trial. I think that's a reasonable position. I think most people can agree also that, yes, let's deport convicted felons, convicted criminals, but let's not deport our nannies and students or dental hygienists who've been living here for years and have kids in communities. We can have a common sense position on this.
Yeah, the problem is that's not what people are talking about. People are talking about the criminals, and everybody does agree that immigration is a very good thing. And I've spoken about this on a couple of different occasions now, but one of the things that pisses me off about this is the idea that people are against immigration.
That is false.
People are against people who are not invited in their country doing things that are to the detriment of that country. If you're going to come to America illegally, you better be the nicest motherfucking law-abiding citizen there is. Nobody has a problem with you coming here, making a life for yourself, and continuing to move on. Another thing there that he mentioned that I don't think Rokana ever even addresses is the idea that, well, he was talking about working class Latinos. He didn't say anything about that because I don't think they necessarily have an argument for this. But the idea that a bunch of Latino people are here illegally, to me, is just something that's nonsensical. When you talk about illegal immigrants, I get it. People have this kind of, let's call it racist kind of thing where it just goes directly to like Latinos and Spanish people in general, but there are illegals of every ethnicity in America right now. We can't just specifically make it a Latino problem, even though it probably disproportionately impacts them because of Mexico, and we obviously share a border or whatever.
That being said,
all Latin people do not just advocate for illegal immigration. Most Latin people are actually here legally, and they're also on the side of getting rid of these illegals as well. So when you try to make it like a specific to them issue, they're pretty upset about that, if I'm being honest, and they have the right to be.
I get that. That makes a lot of sense, but there's a flip side. So for example, if I remember correctly, based on my research, in Sacramento in 2023, there was a law passed in terms of empowering the governor of California to really forced environmentalists and the courts to move quickly, 270 days, if I remember correctly, something along those lines. Why do I bring something like that up with a subject like this? Because here in your state, they can drag their feet and prolong certain things. And as a result of that, things don't get done nearly as fast as they should. When we're talking about immigration, and we're talking about immigrants who may be criminals. You're talking about them being arrested. Let's have due process. But if it takes too damn long to address it, that pisses people off. That's one of the problems that exist in this country. You're looking at stuff and you're like, okay, you arrested him. Was he in jail? All right, you let him out. Recidivism is an issue in this country. You let somebody, you arrest them, you're letting them out the same day, stuff like that. You got law enforcement officials that are getting discouraged because they're looking at it and they're saying, wait a minute, why are we out here risking our life and taking care of this stuff when y'all are just letting people out? You got to handle business. And a lot of times we hear about the red tape and all of that stuff, and you're talking about a candidate right now who's not president to be the president of the United States now. He's sitting up there and he's talking about expediting the process at every turn. Let's just get stuff done. Let's just get it done. Now, I don't know if I trust that. I don't blame you for not trusting it. But we have to understand the American people are saying, you know what, enough's enough. We've tried it that way. We've been doing it that way for decades. We sick of y'all. Let's wait. Let's go through the process. Let's arrest somebody. Let's let them out. Let's put them back out on the streets. Oh, let's make sure they have due process. You think
everything he's saying there is spot on. It takes way too goddamn long, especially when it comes to like just like laws and just like the due process or whatever. It takes too damn long, and there's way too much red tape for people to just be sitting on their hands and going, yeah, we support you or whatever. And one of the things that bothers me the most about this conversation is people try to, and especially the left, when I hear them try to have this conversation, they try to make it seem like the policies that they pass don't also have negative implications. So it's like, well, let's focus on the families and the people who are coming here and getting a better life, but then let's completely ignore the criminals who are completely destroying our country. You cannot have people coming into your country illegally and then also simultaneously destroying your country. To hell with all of the families or whatever that you guys are helping. Sometimes the negative implications of a thing that you do have to outweigh the positive implications of it. And that's just what we've been seeing here.
Somebody wants to hear about due process with somebody that's in this country illegally? I want to hear that. You in the country illegally. Hell with your process. Yeah. You got the audacity to admit a crime after you got here illegally? We ain't trying to hear that. Nobody's trying to hear that. So they're saying, wait a minute, what are you going to do about it? Where is the common sense in that?
I get that, but that's what...
Exactly what I was just saying earlier. Yo, there's common sense here. If you're going to come to a place illegally, motherfucker, keep a low profile. Like, you shouldn't be the person going around shooting people. You shouldn't be walking around punching old ladies in the face, as we've seen in New York City. You should be the person who is the nicest person in the country. If you're here, you should understand that it's a privilege to be in this country to begin with. If you're here illegally, you should understand that even better than anybody else. All immigrants should understand that it's a privilege to be in this country, number one. I understand that it's a privilege to be here. But if I was to come here illegally, to have the fucking audacity to then be going out here and committing crimes, like,
are you high?
Like, what do you think this is? And that's exactly what he's speaking to. And that's what a lot of American people are talking about. Yo, you cannot be coming in here committing dumb crime. It just cannot happen. If you want to be here illegally, if you want to work and you want to provide for your family, okay, I don't think anybody has a problem with that. And you know what? I'm going to say this as well, because this is something that just reminded me of this. Okay. A couple of months ago, I want to say, it was actually not even a couple, it was probably more like right before the beginning of the year. So New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve or whatever. Me and one of my friends we were going to a party or whatever. So one of my friends is a comedian. He does a bunch of shows or whatever. And me and him were supposed to be going to one of his shows. But then on my way to meet up with him, I got a text message from a friend of mine, and he was inviting me over because they were having people over for New Year's Eve, I want to say it was. But we meet up and we go to the show, and I tell him, yo, hey, so-and-so just invited us over here. We can go over here. And I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, yeah, we'll go to the show, and then afterward, we'll just go to our friend's house who's having people over. We're like, all right. So the show ends. I'm like, all right, let's go.
This is where things get interesting.
Some of his friends started hanging out with us after the show. So we're like sitting there. I'm like, yo, let's go over to so-and-so's place. I told him we were going to be over there. And he's like, so can these other people come? And I'm just like, it's not my house and I didn't want to invite them, but I also didn't want to just go, you guys aren't invited for any arbitrary reason anyway. So I'm looking at him and I'm like, not necessarily, but I can give our homie a call and just let him know that some other people are going to be coming with us. I'm like, all right, cool. So I call him and my homie's just like, well, I don't necessarily know any of these people. And he's kind of reluctant to like let them come over, but he's like, all right, they can come over or whatever. So we end up going over to my friend's house. Keep in mind, guys, 2 of us there are really invited and they wanted us to be there. The other 3 people who showed up weren't necessarily invited, okay? So one of those other 3 people, 2 of them were pretty cool, but one of those other 3 people gets belligerent, starts making other people uncomfortable at the spot, starts touching people, starts getting too drunk or whatever, and starts going insane.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
You cannot go somewhere that you were not invited to and then also be a nuisance in that place. Would I be upset at my homie who invited us to the place if he said, hey, you guys can come from now on, but you guys can't bring any other people? No, because when you bring people over to a house that they weren't invited to in the first place and then they start making other people uncomfortable, you weren't invited here in the first place, but now you're doing all of this and you're just disturbing the peace of this place. Get out. You weren't wanted here in the first place. And that's just exactly what we're seeing when it comes to this immigration stuff.
That's what makes America different than every other country. We have a constitution. We give people rights. We don't just say, let's conveniently
give
ignore.
citizens rights.
We give
citizens rights.
No, we give every person here rights on basic due process.
Well,
There
maybe
are
that's
people
what
that
people are saying.
Under the Constitution.
They're saying they want the citizens to have the rights.
Were you at the? You weren't at the inauguration.
I went to the inauguration.
You did. Good
I
for-
did. I did
Okay,
go
all
to
right.
the inauguration.
I didn't even watch it.
Neither did I.
You know, and the ratings were way down. I think not since 2013.
Sure, if you did.
All right, I don't even necessarily want to get to the rest of this clip because it's a really long, like 57-minute thing, and I don't necessarily want to get anywhere else. But I want to go back to what he said there in that the citizens are saying that we want the citizens to have the rights and we don't necessarily want the illegal immigrants to have the rights. And that's another thing that people just don't understand on the left specifically. It's like you cannot give everybody the rights if you're taking the rights away from other people. So, for example, they're diverting all of this funding to all of these illegal migrants and all of these sanctuary locales or whatever. If you're diverting these funds to these illegals, you're taking the funds away from the people who are the tax-paying citizens who actually also need those funds. What do you think they're going to do about that? You think they're going to be happy at the fact that, well, we care about the illegals and they're just going to be sitting there looking at it like, yo,
What the fuck are you talking about?
what about me? It's my tax dollars that you're taking. And then on top of that, to add insult to injury, these are the same illegals who some of them are destroying our communities. You cannot ask people to just go along with this and not expect some sort of backlash. It just doesn't work that way. People are not against immigration. I'm going to say this in final closing. They're not against immigration. They're against criminals and they're against illegal immigration. You cannot combine those two things and expect people to just go, it'll be fine. No. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the backlash that you're seeing in a lot of these sanctuary cities right now from residents, because they're not having it anymore. And Trump is coming in and he has the will of the people, especially when it comes to this issue in specific, to do whatever necessary to expedite the process. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I don't necessarily have any other thoughts on this, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this entire clip and let me know where you guys stand when it comes to the whole immigration process. And do you guys agree with me, or do you guys fall on the side of, well, let's just let everybody come in illegally and just whatever happens, happens? I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me on this video. You guys could have been anywhere else in the world, but you chose to be here with me, and I really do appreciate you. If you liked what you heard today, do me a solid and like the video, share the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. Those things really do help out the channel a lot, guys. And if you didn't like what you heard, thanks for allowing me to occupy your time. Consider leaving a comment in the comments down below, letting me know exactly what it was that you disagreed with, and maybe we could talk about it. Either way, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for pressing play on this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.